but are we doing enough? We have to do so much. I mean, I can't tell you how hard I was hit by the 8th anniversary of 9/11. I think it's great what Charlie Sheen did. I hope that he does bring even more attention to this 9/11 issue. I hope that, the President of the United States at one point has to actually respond to this video in one shape or form. But it's 8 years later, and not one person that actually took an active role in planning and participating in this action has ever been prosecuted for 9/11, has ever been exposed as the criminal they are. And that hits me hard. It makes me very upset. And it tells me I've got a lot of work ahead of me to try to expose the fact that this is an international intelligence op. This is the quote-unquote New World Order. That's their term. That's the globalist term. That's the military-industrial complex's inner joke word. And now they're pushing it on your kids with this new comic book from Agent Provocateur. Striptease meets comic strip as Agent Provocateur campaign introduces new generation of superheroes. And honestly, some of these ladies are so scantily clad, I don't think that we can really show it. And it looks like it's not just a comic book, it's some kind of a website/television show. Let's see, titled The New World Order. Today sees the launch of the first episode, Mission to Earth, which introduced Christiana, Pantheria, and Elmira as Explorer, each with their own lingerie costumes. That's one of the less racy ones right there. And, they're pushing the New World Order with slick artwork, hot chicks, and comic books to young men. And admittedly, it's called Agent Provocateur. Pretty in your face, if you ask me. Richard in Texas. Richard, you're on the line.
How you doing, Jason? I wanted to bring some up to you guys that I've tried to get to your attention since Terror Storm even came out. That there's so many of us that like to burn copies of the disc, like you recommended us that we do, and we're more than happy and we love doing that. Mm-hmm. But we would like, and at the same time, you guys don't make any income off of that. I'd like to see whether you guys could, on your next coming videos, could have labels put out that would say for free distribution, it would be a professional brand label, free distribution, put your websites on it, and then you could sell us the labels that, if they cost 2 cents to a nickel a piece, you guys can print 10,000 of them or 20,000 of them. Sell them to us for a quarter a piece. That way our discs get a professional-looking label. You get your website out, you make some money off of it.
Well, this is what I would say.
For everybody.
I don't know if we could do that, but if there was enough of an outcry, there would be a possibility of us maybe putting the movies out on spindles. So instead of spending $20 a DVD, depending on how many you bought, between, we did this with Loose Change, between a 10, 25, or 100 pack, you could be spending as, tops, $5 or $6 a DVD, and lowest $2 a DVD, say if you got the package of 100. That would be a possibility, but we'd really need to get an outcry of emails from people like yourself. I think that that's more plausible, because honestly, when you're doing them in such masses like that, which you would expect, and the outcry would be, it wouldn't cost much more to actually have the DVD printed up, and as opposed to I'm in the print, as the label. I've been in the printing industry, and I can tell you right now, you're literally, when you're talking about masses of like 5,000 or 10,000, which is what you would have to order, something like a 25 to 50 cent difference between getting it on a DVD and getting it on a label, and then having to have people process it. So, I mean, if you really are into that, I always think that spindles are a great idea, especially for those that don't know how to burn DVDs and people who are looking to pass out the DVDs, which we encourage 110%. I mean, I went down to New York City last year, and I still didn't have any I think I had like one copy of Fabled Enemies. We got a few rushed ones, but someone had actually gotten the DivX rip, burned it onto DVD, and he came with a stack of 100 on a spindle, and I was able to hand those out in like 5 minutes. And we saw so many people doing that this 9/11. I've seen so many people doing that at the Tea Party, for instance, in San Antonio. I saw someone give out, it was a group of about 8 to 10 people, give out over 100 Obama deceptions in a little less than 30 minutes. So it is a very effective tool, and people had already seen it. They had actually walked up to, I remember this like 60-year-old woman, and she saw, I actually watched that 2 nights ago. It was so excellent. It really opened my eyes. I passed it on to my neighbor. It is a great awakening tool. I thank you so much for the call, Richard. Let's jump to Ken in Washington. Ken, you're on the line.
Hey, Jason. Hey, I got a couple points about the health care bill, but before that, I wanted to really quick mention something about the protests on Saturday.
Go ahead.
And that is, like this caller that called up explaining about the permit problem and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't understand is why people protest need permits. I know you need permits to do certain things, to get around things that they've made bogus laws about, but it's not a protest if you get a permit. It's a controlled, managed event when you get a permit.
Well, it's always going to be well, I'm just going to say this. It's always going to be a controlled, managed event when you're dealing with the White House or the Capitol or the Pentagon. That is just a reality that we have to deal with. It's unfortunate. I don't agree with it. I mean, I agree. Our First Amendment is our right to be there, but, for instance, when I was out on my shoot, probably, a month and a half, 2 months ago with Aaron Dykes, every time we would get stopped eventually for having the tripods. Oh, do you have a permit? And be like, no, officer, I don't have a permit. You just have to sit there and talk to the guy. And yes, it's a hassle. Yes, it's against, but you have to weigh, well, am I going to sit here and really argue with this guy until he comes over and arrests me? And then all of a sudden I might lose my tape and it's going to cost me not only $500 or more in this litigation, but it's also going to cost me the time to get the shoot. So if they make us get a permit, yes, it's bowing down to the establishment, and I don't like it. But at the same time, I think the 2 million people really stands out to such a degree. Get the stupid permit. I agree. Listen, we do have to have some kind of national security. It is the White House. We do have our free speech, but I can understand why you would have to get a permit for 2 million people outside of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Mr. Jones, your opinion?
Well, sure. No, I have the common law history of this, if you want it, or the caller wants it, just because I heard him discussing it. You don't need a permit to stand on a street corner with a sign. You don't need a permit to peaceably assemble. Permits started in the last 100 years because people wanted, like the St. Patrick's Day Parade, wanted to block a bunch of main streets. Mm-hmm. And so the permit was because you were asking them to shut down commerce and asking them to supply police cordons, barricades, and support. And so it was a taxpayer issue, and it would have to go before the city council. Mm-hmm. But once they turn a right into a privilege, then they start restricting them everywhere and saying free speech zones, or we're not issuing the permit. So there's the problem. Mm-hmm. But yes, if you're going to block 3 or 4 major roads and take over something, that's where the permits came in. But there is no permit needed under common law in the court cases to go take over the mall. It's just blocking roads. It's the same thing with the concealed permit carry. Under common law, it's illegal to have a weapon hidden. That's why people everywhere, except in a few cities that have unconstitutional laws, can carry guns openly. You need the permit for it concealed. It's a permit to do something that would have been illegal or prohibited. So they're manipulating laws and then creating a perception that things are illegal that aren't.
Yeah, and let's talk about those free speech zones, because we saw them just explode around 2004 in the run-up to the election, even in 2003.
Yeah, right before the whole Iraq War thing.
Yeah, the whole Iraq War, and then when you went down to New York City for the Republican National Convention.
In the FEMA camp.
Absolutely. So they've kind of made that their next step, from permits to now free speech zones. And
then now watch what you say.
Yeah.
And oh my God, there's extremists. But that's what they're turning all of this into.
Caller, anything else? Well, it looks like our caller is gone.
Well, here's another example. Mm-hmm. If you want to go hold a sign up at the Austin, Texas Capitol, mm-hmm. and don't block people's walkways, you can do it. They would try to arrest you over a decade ago. They lost state court cases. People would go bullhorn the governor's mansion or just try to protest. The DPS, state police, mm-hmm. kept arresting people. They kept losing suits. So now you can go bullhorn as long as you don't block the road and they leave you alone. But if you want the Capitol...
We'll be back after this.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done has been right.
We are back. The InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas. Before we go back to Ken in Washington and then other callers, I want to remind people that we are filmmakers here at InfoWars.com, and Alex Jones's latest, The Obama Deception, probably his biggest film yet, couldn't be more poignant, couldn't be more important than right now. If you have a neighbor that's still under this rock star spell of Obama and they like the Rolling Stone covers and they believe the speech, that speech of hope, oh, we brought the economy back from the brink. If they're buying into the Johnny nonsense and the bull, you need to get over to Infowars.com, get a copy of The Obama Deception, make copies, and then hand them out. If you've got a neighbor that just won't talk about 9/11 truth, doesn't want to hear that Sibel Edmonds, the FBI translator, is saying that Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and bin Laden worked with U.S. intelligence till the day of 9/11. Get them a copy of Fabled Enemies. It lays out the international intelligence network that carried out the attacks 8 years ago. All right, let's go back to Ken in Washington. Ken, what was your other point?
Well, you asked me if I had anything else to say about that. Then I'll get to my other point. I just wanted to say that, protest isn't protest without some sort of disruption, and you don't get someone's attention by letting them know you're coming to protest, and they can't arrest 2 million people. But anyway, what I really originally called about was Obama and the healthcare stuff and like his speech, and he confirmed some things in his Wednesday speech that I thought I had heard about and seen it, online, about, and it's really bothering me because one of the things he said is true. These 2 points have bipartisan support, either because of complicity with globalism